The ancient world's most famous queen, celebrated for her wit, magnetism, and connections to Rome's elite, was actually the result of nearly 3 centuries of the most convoluted family relationships ever documented. Cleopatra VII's ancestry wasn't so much a family tree as it was a tangled web of endless loops and knots, where siblings routinely married siblings and relatives wed relatives for almost 300 years straight. This story goes beyond Cleopatra's famous love affairs or her tragic finale. We're diving deep into history, wandering through Egyptian royal chambers and Macedonian halls, where power was maintained not through political marriages with outsiders, but through constant unions within the same bloodline. Today, we're peeling back the layers to reveal exactly what this looked like. We'll follow Cleopatra's ancestry from beginning to end. Consider how generations of family intermarriage might have shaped her looks, and discover how such a ruling house survived through uprisings, murders, and treachery before finally meeting its end. Popular memory paints Cleopatra as mesmerizing, the sort of captivating figure who could alter the course of nations. Yet these portrayals originated mainly from Roman writers, some flattering, others hostile. And they weren't describing perfect facial features or flawless complexion. Instead, they emphasized her charisma, her speaking voice, her sharp mind. What remains are artistic representations, currency images, and idealized statues. These typically depict someone with a strong nose, sunken eyes, tall forehead, and angular jawline. Perhaps not the conventional beauty we expect from Hollywood, but certainly memorable. Consider the effects of more than 9 generations where brothers married sisters. Cousins wed cousins, and uncles took nieces as wives. The genetic variety diminishes. Distinctive characteristics become more pronounced. However, Cleopatra displayed no recorded evidence of physical or cognitive impairment, implying either she defied the dangers of close family breeding, or minor irregularities simply went undocumented. Or maybe, among a court filled with genetic similarities, she appeared refreshingly different. Most royal family members likely shared comparable features. What strikes us as remarkable may have seemed perfectly ordinary to them. And if artists softened flaws while creating idealized portraits, we might be seeing a blend of reality and wishful thinking. Understanding Cleopatra's lineage requires traveling not to Egypt, but to Macedonia's rugged terrain in northern Greece. That's the true starting point of her tale. When Alexander the Great built an empire spanning from Greece to India, his unexpected death created a power void. His leading generals grabbed control of various regions, each staking claim to portions of the shattered realm. One of these was Ptolemy I, Alexander's boyhood companion and loyal friend. Upon seizing Egypt, he didn't merely govern, he declared himself pharaoh. Yet unlike homegrown dynasties, he imported his Greek heritage. The Ptolemies maintained Greek as their language, honored Greek deities alongside Egyptian gods, and ruled Egypt as outsiders. To maintain their untainted bloodline, they repeatedly married within their own ranks. This choice established a pattern that would characterize the Ptolemaic house from its beginning to its conclusion. To contemporary sensibilities, this seems shocking. However, in ancient times, royal sibling unions weren't merely tolerated. They were calculated moves. In Egypt, pharaohs were viewed as divine beings. Wedding family members preserved the bloodline's sacred nature and prevented external families from gaining influence through marriage alliances. Therefore, for Cleopatra's forebears, taking a sister, niece, or even daughter as a wife wasn't scandalous. It was practical politics. Yet with each passing generation, genetic dangers mounted, and without new blood entering for centuries, the royal gene pool grew as narrow as the Nile during drought. Ptolemy II wed his sister Arsinoe II. Ptolemy IV took his sister Arsinoe III as his bride. Ptolemy VI married his sister Cleopatra II, who later became the wife of their brother as well. This pattern continued relentlessly, frequently ending in disaster, killings, poisonings, backstabbing. Many rulers grew up together as siblings before being compelled into matrimony. The psychological damage, combined with political stress, must have been overwhelming. When family members weren't marrying each other, they were battling each other. Brothers banished one another. Mothers opposed sons. Court advisors plotted in shadows, frequently arranging murders to install more controllable monarchs. Halfway through the Ptolemaic era, the royal court had transformed into a maze of political maneuvering and hidden threats. It was no longer a center of wealth and tradition. It had become a dangerous place, ready to explode. Ptolemy IV's own counselors killed his mother to strengthen their control over him. Upon his death, his sister-wife Arsinoe III was swiftly eliminated too, silenced before she could seize power as ruling queen. Their child, Ptolemy V, was placed on the throne as a young boy in a realm drenched in treachery. However, unlike many before him, he didn't endure quietly. As he matured, he took savage revenge against those who caused his mother's death, an early indication that even within dynastic turmoil, retribution still had its place on the throne. He wed Cleopatra the Firm, an uncommon infusion of new ancestry into the royal bloodline. She brought Macedonian and Persian heritage, providing a small hint of variety in a lineage overwhelmed by close family unions. Nevertheless, she wasn't an outsider. Her family connections wound back into the Ptolemaic network through numerous ancestral links. Moving forward, the family structure looked less like a tree and more like a tightly wound coil. Relationships became twisted beyond modern understanding. At certain points, a ruler wed both his sister and her daughter, effectively making mother and daughter both his wives. Another married his niece, while remaining wed to her mother, his own sister. Bloodlines became so confused that children frequently held several roles at once: daughter, niece, cousin, and half-sister simultaneously. Competition cut deep through family bonds. Brothers plotted against brothers. Sisters fought for authority and control. One pharaoh, despised for murdering his cherished wife, who was also his cousin, was pulled from his palace and killed by Alexandria's furious citizens. This wasn't simply royal theatrics. It was family warfare fought within the same household across multiple generations. At the conclusion of this remarkably twisted heritage stood Cleopatra VII, the dynasty's final and arguably most remarkable leader. Unlike many who came before her, Cleopatra wasn't merely a ruler by birthright. She was a natural tactician, remarkably educated, mentally powerful, and politically sharp. She embodied the culmination of centuries-old traditions while also representing a dramatic departure from them. She mastered multiple languages, including Egyptian, an unusual and significant choice among Greek-speaking pharaohs who ruled without truly integrating. She wed her brother as tradition demanded, then another when the first passed away, honoring the dynasty's practices. Yet beneath these expected unions, Cleopatra was charting a different course, one guided by negotiation, appeal, and pure determination. Her relationships with Julius Caesar and subsequently Mark Antony weren't simple romantic entanglements. They were deliberate, high-risk political partnerships. Cleopatra recognized the changing balance of power. Rome was ascending rapidly, and for Egypt to endure, it needed a queen skilled at reading these changes. Although her offspring temporarily continued her lineage, they wouldn't survive the changing forces of the empire. With her death alongside Antony's, Egypt came under Roman dominance. The dynasty concluded not with quiet submission, but with one last bold act of defiance. In modern times, Cleopatra VII represents much more than simply the final member of a lengthy royal line. She's remembered not for her complicated ancestry, but for her intelligence, strength, and authority in an era when women seldom wielded such power. She confronted empires, outsmarted military leaders, and governed a nation during its last period of independence. Her bloodline, complex, confused, and closely connected, symbolized a dynasty fixated on preservation. Yet Cleopatra turned that heritage into something more significant, a foundation for lasting impact, not merely an inherited position. She didn't just maintain customs, she reimagined them. While her family's past was rooted in seclusion and repetition, she shattered the mold by reaching outward, connecting Egypt with global powers and creating an influence that would survive Rome itself. When we consider Cleopatra, we shouldn't envision merely a queen descended from inbred aristocracy. We should picture a leader shaped by adversity, ruling on the brink of disaster, committed to controlling her own destiny right until the final moment.